I walked through my front door that Tuesday evening, my heart still racing from the biggest news of my career. After 5 long years of hard work, I had finally been promoted to director at my father's company. I couldn't wait to tell Marcus, my husband, about this incredible moment. But something was very wrong. The house was filled with the smell of my favorite foods, lasagna, garlic bread, and that special chocolate cake Marcus only made for really important occasions. Soft music was playing, and there were balloons everywhere. Red roses, my absolute favorite, sat in beautiful vases around the living room. Surprise! Marcus shouted as he appeared from the kitchen, wearing his best smile and holding a bottle of champagne. My brilliant wife deserves the best celebration. I should have been happy. I should have been jumping up and down with joy. But instead, a cold feeling crept up my spine. Marcus was never home this early. He was always working late, always had meetings, always had some excuse. So, why was he here now, with a party already planned, when I hadn't even told him about my promotion yet? If you're wondering what happens next, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more shocking stories like this one. My name is Emma, and until that moment, I thought I had the perfect life. I'm the only daughter of the man who owns Salazar Construction Group, one of the biggest building companies in the whole country. I grew up with everything I could ever want: big houses, fancy cars, beautiful clothes, and the best schools money could buy. People always told me how lucky I was. But the truth is, I never cared about any of that stuff. The only thing that made me truly happy was Marcus. I met him 3 years ago at a coffee shop near my college. He wasn't rich like the other guys who usually tried to date me. Marcus came from a normal family. His dad was a teacher and his mom worked at a grocery store. But he had something special that none of those rich boys had. He had dreams. Big dreams. Marcus was smart, hardworking, and most importantly, he loved me for me, not for my family's money. At least, that's what I believed back then. When we got married 2 years ago, my parents gave us the most amazing wedding gift. They created a whole new company called Emma's Projects and put Marcus in charge of running it. My father said it was because he wanted to give his future son-in-law a chance to prove himself. "This company will be your legacy," Dad told Marcus on our wedding day. "Take care of it and take care of my daughter." Marcus promised he would do both. I was so happy to let him handle all the business stuff. I didn't want to work in construction or worry about money and meetings. All I wanted was to create the beautiful family life I had always dreamed of. I wanted to be the perfect wife, and someday, the perfect mother. For 2 whole years, everything seemed wonderful. Marcus worked hard every day, building up the company my parents had given him. He would come home tired but always with a smile for me. We would eat dinner together, watch movies, and make plans for our future. "One day, we'll have kids running around this house," Marcus would say, holding my hand. "And I'll teach them how to build things, just like your father taught me about business." I believed every word he said. But that Tuesday evening, as I stood in our living room surrounded by balloons and the smell of my favorite food, something felt terribly wrong. "How did you know?" I asked Marcus, trying to keep my voice normal. "How did you know about my promotion?" Marcus laughed and pulled me into his arms. "A husband knows these things, sweetheart. I could see how hard you've been working. I just had a feeling today was going to be your big day." His explanation sounded reasonable, but my heart was beating faster and faster. Marcus was many things, but he was not psychic. There was no way he could have just guessed that today, out of all days, I would get promoted. "But Marcus," I said slowly, "I only found out 2 hours ago. And you've been home for at least 3 hours preparing all this. I can tell because the lasagna takes that long to cook properly." For just a split second, Marcus's smile flickered. It was so quick that most people would have missed it. But I saw it. I saw the tiny moment of panic in his eyes before he covered it up with another laugh. "Oh, Emma, you're overthinking this," he said, spinning me around. "Can a man just want to celebrate his amazing wife? I made all your favorites, just in case you had good news today. And if you didn't, well, we could celebrate being together instead." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to push away the uncomfortable feeling in my stomach and just enjoy this beautiful moment. But something deep inside me was screaming that this didn't make sense. As we sat down to eat, Marcus seemed nervous. He kept checking his phone, which was very unusual for him. During dinner, we usually talked about our days, our dreams, and funny things that happen at work. But that night, Marcus barely spoke at all. "Is everything okay, honey?" I asked, reaching across the table to touch his hand. "Of course," he said quickly, putting his phone face down on the table. "I just have some business stuff on my mind. You know how it is." But I didn't know how it was, because Marcus never brought work stress home with him. He always said our home was a place for love and happiness, not business worries. After dinner, Marcus suddenly stood up and started clearing the dishes. "You know what, sweetheart? I just remembered I have to take a business trip tomorrow morning." My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. "A business trip? But you didn't mention anything about a trip this morning." "It just came up today," Marcus said, not looking at me. "One of our partners in Santa Monica called with an emergency. Some problem with permits and inspections. I need to drive down there first thing in the morning." Santa Monica. That was a 3-hour drive from our house in Los Angeles. "How long will you be gone?" I asked. "Probably until the weekend. Maybe longer if things are really complicated." I felt that cold feeling in my stomach again. Marcus had never taken a business trip that long without talking to me about it first. We planned everything together, even short trips to the grocery store. "Can't someone else handle it?" I asked. "We were supposed to go see that new movie tomorrow night. Remember? We've been planning it for weeks." Marcus finally looked at me, and for a moment, his face looked almost guilty. But then he smiled his usual warm smile and came over to hug me. "I'm sorry, baby. I know we had plans, but this is really important for the company. Your father is counting on me to handle these big problems."
He was right about that.
Dad had trusted Marcus with so much responsibility. I couldn't be selfish and ask him to ignore his work duties just because I wanted to spend time with him. "Okay," I said quietly. "I'll miss you, though." "I'll miss you too," Marcus said, kissing the top of my head. "But I'll be back before you know it. And when I get home, we'll do something really special to celebrate your promotion properly." That night, I helped Marcus pack his bags. I folded his shirts carefully and made sure he had all his favorite snacks for the long drive. As always, I reminded him to drive safely and call me when he arrived. "Take care of yourself," I said, standing on my tiptoes to kiss him goodbye the next morning. "You too, sweetheart," Marcus replied, holding me tight. "Be good while I'm gone." I watched his black BMW disappear through our garage door, and that's when the strangest feeling hit me. Our big house in Beverly Hills, which was usually filled with laughter and music, suddenly felt completely empty. It wasn't just quiet, it was like all the warmth had been sucked right out of the walls. I wandered around the house, trying to keep myself busy. I cleaned the kitchen, organized my closet, and even watered all the plants. But my mind kept going back to the night before. Something about Marcus's behavior just didn't add up. And then I remembered something important. My parents had bought us a beautiful beach house in Santa Monica as a wedding present. We barely ever used it, maybe 5 or 6 times in 2 years. It was supposed to be our romantic getaway place, but Marcus always seemed to find excuses not to go there. "It's too far to drive for just a weekend," he would say. Or, "We have too much work to catch up on." The last time we had talked about the beach house, Marcus suggested we should rent it out to make some extra money. "It's just sitting there empty," he had said. "We might as well put it to good use." But I had said no. The house was a gift from my parents, and it felt wrong to let strangers live there. Now, as I sat in our empty house, a crazy idea popped into my head. What if I drove to Santa Monica and surprised Marcus at the beach house? I could clean it up, maybe cook him a nice dinner, and we could spend a romantic evening together after his business meeting. The more I thought about it, the more excited I became. Marcus would be so surprised to see me, and maybe we could finally use that beautiful house the way my parents had intended. I grabbed my car keys and headed for the door. I had no idea that this simple decision would change my entire life forever. As I drove toward Santa Monica, I felt happy for the first time since Marcus had left. I couldn't wait to see the look on his face when I showed up at the beach house. But what I found there would be more shocking than anything I could have ever imagined. The 3-hour drive to Santa Monica felt like the longest trip of my life. Every mile brought new excitement about surprising Marcus. I imagined his face lighting up when he saw me at the door. Maybe we could order pizza and watch the sunset from our balcony overlooking the Pacific Ocean. I had stopped at the grocery store to buy ingredients for his favorite meal, steak with garlic potatoes and green beans. The bags were sitting in my back seat, along with a bottle of wine I had picked out specially for the occasion. This is going to be perfect, I told myself as I drove through the busy streets of Santa Monica. Our beach house was located in one of the most expensive buildings in the city. The Ocean View Towers sat right on the beach, with huge windows that looked out over the water. Our apartment was on the 25th floor, high enough to see for miles in every direction. My parents had chosen this place because they wanted Marcus and me to have somewhere beautiful and peaceful to escape from the busy city life. Every young couple needs a romantic hideaway, my mother had said when she gave us the keys. As I rode the elevator up to the 25th floor, my heart was beating fast with excitement. I couldn't wait to see Marcus's surprised face. But when the elevator doors opened, I felt a strange chill in the air. Something was different. The hallway looked exactly the same as always: elegant white walls, soft carpet, and expensive artwork hanging in gold frames. But there was a feeling in the air that made my stomach twist into knots. I walked slowly toward apartment 2501, our apartment, carrying the grocery bags in both hands. With each step, that uncomfortable feeling got stronger and stronger. And then I heard something that made me freeze in place. Music. Soft, gentle music coming from inside our apartment. But not just any music. It was a lullaby, the kind of sweet song that people play for babies. My hands started shaking so hard that I almost dropped the grocery bags. Why would there be baby music coming from our apartment? Marcus and I didn't have any children. We had talked about having kids someday, but that was still just a dream for the future. I stood outside the door for what felt like hours, just listening. The music continued to play, soft and peaceful, like someone was trying to help a baby fall asleep. Maybe Marcus was watching TV, I told myself. Maybe there was a commercial or a movie with babies in it. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. With shaking hands, I reached into my purse to find my keys. The keyring felt heavy and cold in my palm. I had carried these keys for 2 years, but suddenly they felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. I put the key into the lock very slowly, trying not to make any noise. The metal made a tiny clicking sound as it turned, and I held my breath, hoping no one inside would hear it. The door opened with a soft creak. What I saw inside made my blood turn to ice. The apartment wasn't empty like it was supposed to be. Someone was definitely living here. There were pink women's slippers sitting neatly by the front door, small, cute slippers with little flowers on them. They looked brand new and expensive. I had never seen those slippers before in my life. On the coffee table, there were baby bottles, small toys, and a pink blanket folded neatly in a basket. The whole living room had been changed. It looked like a place where a woman and a baby lived. My apartment. My beautiful beach house that my parents had bought for Marcus and me. Someone else was living in our home. I felt like I was going to throw up. My legs became so weak that I had to lean against the wall to keep from falling down. This can't be real, I whispered to myself. This has to be some kind of mistake. But before I could think of what to do next, I heard footsteps coming from the bedroom. A young woman appeared in the doorway, and when she saw me, both of us froze like statues. She was pretty, maybe about my age, with long dark hair pulled up in a messy bun. She was wearing simple pajamas, the kind that new mothers wear when they're taking care of babies. Her face looked tired, like she hadn't been sleeping much. But what made my heart stop completely was what she was carrying in her arms. A baby. A tiny baby, maybe 1 year old, wearing little blue pajamas and holding a pacifier in his small fist. The woman stared at me with wide, surprised eyes. I could tell she was scared and confused about why a stranger was standing in her living room. "Excuse me," she said in a voice that was polite but worried. "Are you looking for someone?" Can I help you? I stood there like I had been turned into stone. My mouth opened, but no words came out. A million questions were spinning around in my head, but I couldn't ask any of them. Who was this woman? Whose baby was she holding? And why were they living in the apartment that belonged to Marcus and me? I tried to make my brain work normally. I tried to think of some logical explanation for what I was seeing. Maybe Marcus had rented the apartment to this woman without telling me. Maybe she was a friend who needed a place to stay temporarily. Maybe there was some perfectly innocent reason why she was here with her baby. But even as I tried to convince myself of these possibilities, I knew something was very wrong. "Oh," I said, forcing my voice to sound normal even though my heart was pounding like a drum. "Hi there. I'm so sorry to bother you. I think I might have gotten off on the wrong floor." I held up the grocery bags like they explained everything. I was looking for apartment 2502. My friend lives there, and I was bringing her some food. It was a lie, but I needed time to think. I needed to figure out what was happening before I said or did anything I might regret. The young woman's face relaxed a little bit. She looked at my nice clothes and expensive purse, and I could tell she decided I probably wasn't dangerous. "Oh, that's okay," she said with a small smile. "This is 2501. The apartment you're looking for is probably right next door." "Thank you so much," I said, backing toward the door. "I'm sorry for scaring you. I'll just go find the right place." I turned to leave, desperate to get out of there so I could think clearly. But just as I was about to step into the hallway, the baby in her arms started crying. Sure, the woman said in a sweet, loving voice. "It's okay, my little Leo. Everything's fine." She bounced the baby gently, trying to calm him down. Her voice became even softer and more loving as she continued talking to the child. "Don't cry, sweetie. Daddy Marcus will be here soon. He promised he would bring you those new toys you like." The words hit me like a truck crashing into a brick wall. Daddy Marcus. The hallway started spinning around me. The walls felt like they were closing in. My vision became blurry and I thought I might faint right there on the expensive carpet. Marcus. My Marcus. This woman had just called him Daddy Marcus. Which meant, I couldn't finish the thought. It was too horrible, too impossible to believe. But the evidence was right there in front of me. A woman, a baby, living in MY apartment, calling MY husband Daddy. I stumbled backward until my back hit the wall across from the apartment door. I needed something solid to hold me up because my legs felt like they were made of water. The woman was still inside, talking sweetly to the baby she called Leo. I could hear her voice through the slightly open door, but it sounded like it was coming from very far away. "Daddy Marcus loves you so much," she was saying. "He works so hard to take care of us. We're so lucky to have him." Each word was like a knife cutting deeper and deeper into my heart. Marcus wasn't in Santa Monica for a business meeting. Marcus was here to visit his other family. The family he had been hiding from me for who knows how long. I pressed my hands against my mouth to stop myself from screaming. Hot tears started rolling down my cheeks, but I couldn't make any sound. I was afraid that if I opened my mouth, I would start screaming and never be able to stop. How long had this been going on? How long had Marcus been lying to me, pretending to love only me while he had a whole other life with this woman and her baby? The baby looked about 1 year old. That meant Marcus had been cheating on me since right after we got married. Maybe even before we got married. All those times he said he was working late, all those business trips, all those moments when he seemed distracted or worried about something he wouldn't talk about. Now it all made perfect sense. I stood in that empty hallway, feeling like my entire world had just exploded into a million pieces. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, and my husband was a lie. The woman inside the apartment was still talking to the baby, but I could no longer understand what she was saying. All I could hear was the sound of my own heart breaking. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, I heard something that would destroy what was left of my world completely. The woman's phone started ringing from inside the apartment. "Oh," I heard her say, excitedly. "That must be Daddy calling to check on us." I knew I should walk away. I knew I should get in my car and drive home and try to figure out what to do next. But my feet wouldn't move. Something inside me needed to hear this phone call. I needed to know the complete truth, no matter how much it hurt. I stayed pressed against that wall, listening to every word that was about to shatter my heart into pieces, so small they could never be put back together again. I pressed myself against the cold wall in the hallway, my heart beating so loud I was afraid the woman inside could hear it. Every part of me wanted to run away, to get in my car, and pretend I had never seen any of this. But I couldn't move. I was frozen in place, like someone had cast a spell on me. Inside the apartment, I heard the woman answer her phone with the happiest voice I had ever heard. "Hello, my love," she said, and I could practically hear her smiling through the door. "I was just thinking about you." My stomach twisted into painful knots. The way she said "my love" was exactly the same way I said it to Marcus. Sweet, caring, and full of real affection. She wasn't just some random woman. She loved him, and from the sound of her voice, he loved her back. I held my breath and listened as she continued talking. "Leo and I are doing great," she said, bouncing the baby gently. "But he's been a little fussy today. I think he misses his daddy."
His daddy.
There it was again. This wasn't some misunderstanding or coincidence. This woman truly believed that Marcus was the father of her baby. And if the baby was 1 year old, that meant I pressed my hands against my mouth to stop myself from making any noise. The math was simple and horrible. Marcus had been seeing this woman for at least 2 years. Maybe even longer. Our entire marriage had been built on lies. The woman kept talking, and every word made my heart break a little more. "Where are you now, sweetheart?" she asked. "Are you still at that boring work meeting?" Work meeting. So that's what Marcus had told her. He probably said he was stuck in some terrible business meeting while he was actually at home with me, celebrating my promotion. "Oh, you're almost done? That's wonderful," the woman said. "Leo will be so excited to see you. He's been asking for Dada all day." The baby had learned to say Dada. Marcus had missed so many of my important moments because of work, but he had been there to hear this child's first words. I felt like someone was squeezing my chest so tight I couldn't breathe. But the worst part was still coming. "Oh my goodness, Marcus," the woman suddenly squealed with excitement. "You didn't. Really? You actually bought it." She paused, listening to whatever Marcus was saying on the other end of the phone. Her voice got higher and more excited with every word. "The handbag I showed you the picture of? The red one with the gold details? Marcus, that costs almost $10,000. You spoil me way too much." $10,000. I felt like someone had just punched me in the stomach. Just 3 months ago, I had asked Marcus if we could buy a necklace for our wedding anniversary. It was a simple, beautiful piece that cost $2,000. Nothing too fancy, just something special to celebrate our love. But Marcus had said no. "Emma, sweetheart," he had told me with his most serious voice, "the company is going through a tough time right now. We need to be careful with money and set a good example for our employees. We can't be spending on expensive things when we're asking everyone else to tighten their belts." I had felt guilty for even asking. I told him he was absolutely right and that I didn't need any jewelry anyway. His love was enough for me. What a fool I had been. While he was telling me we had to be careful with money, he was spending $10,000 on handbags for his mistress. The woman was still gushing about the expensive gift. "I love you so much, Marcus," she said in a voice that was pure honey. "You work so hard to take care of Leo and me. I don't know what we would do without you." Marcus was saying something back to her, and she started giggling like a teenager. "Stop it. You're making me blush," she said playfully. "You always know exactly what to say to make me feel like the luckiest woman in the world." The luckiest woman in the world. That's exactly how I used to feel about being married to Marcus. Before I knew the truth. The conversation continued, and each word felt like a sharp knife cutting deeper into my soul. "Yes, Leo is eating well," the woman reported. "He loved those baby cookies you bought him last week. And guess what? He took 3 steps all by himself yesterday. I wish you could have seen it." Marcus had missed his son's first steps, because he was with me. But instead of feeling happy about that, I felt sick. This innocent baby was growing up, and Marcus was trying to be in two places at once. I took a video on my phone, the woman continued. I'll show you when you get here. Oh, and don't forget, we have that appointment on Saturday to look at the house. My blood turned cold. What house? Yes, the one in the new neighborhood with the big yard and the swimming pool, she said dreamily. I drove by it again yesterday, and it's even more beautiful than I remembered. Leo would have so much space to play when he gets older. She paused, listening to Marcus's response. I know it's expensive, but you always say that Leo deserves the best of everything. And you work so hard, honey. Don't we deserve a real home where we can be a proper family? A proper family. That phrase hit me like a lightning bolt. She wasn't just Marcus's mistress. She wasn't just some woman he was having an affair with for fun. She thought they were going to be a real family. She thought Marcus was going to leave me and marry her. Maybe he already had left me in his heart. Maybe I was the mistress now, and I just didn't know it yet. How much did you say the house costs? The woman asked. 400,000? Marcus, that's so much money. Are you sure the company can afford it? The company? She was talking about Emma's projects, the company my parents had given to Marcus as a wedding gift. He was planning to use money from MY family's business to buy a house for his other woman and their baby. I felt like I was drowning in an ocean of betrayal. Oh, you're so smart about business, the woman said admiringly. I trust you completely. If you think we can afford it, then I'm sure it will work out perfectly. She trusted him completely. Just like I had trusted him completely. What time will you be here tonight? She asked, and I could hear her moving around the apartment, probably getting ready for his arrival. 8 o'clock?
Perfect.
I'll make your favorite dinner, that pasta dish you love with the special cheese. And Leo can stay up a little late, so he can play with his daddy. 8 o'clock. It was already 7:30. Marcus would be arriving in just 30 minutes. I knew I needed to get out of there immediately. If Marcus found me in that hallway, listening to his private conversation with his secret family, everything would explode right there and then. But I still couldn't move. It was like my feet were glued to the floor. The woman was finishing up her phone call now, and her voice was so full of love and happiness that it made me want to scream. Drive carefully, my darling, she said sweetly. Leo and I will be waiting for you. We love you more than all the stars in the sky. There was a pause, and then she made a kissing sound into the phone. Kiss, kiss. See you soon, my wonderful man. The call ended. I heard her walk back toward the bedroom, probably to get herself ready for Marcus's arrival. She was humming a happy little song, the kind of song that people hum when their whole world is perfect and beautiful. But my whole world had just been destroyed. I finally managed to move my feet and walked slowly toward the elevator, feeling like I was in some terrible nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. In the elevator, I caught sight of myself in the mirrored walls. My face was completely white, and my eyes were red and puffy from crying. I looked like a ghost, which is exactly how I felt. A ghost of the woman I used to be. The woman who trusted her husband. The woman who believed in true love and happy endings. That woman was dead now. As the elevator carried me down to the parking garage, I tried to process everything I had just learned. Marcus had been living a double life for at least 2 years. He had another woman who loved him completely. He had a baby son who called him daddy. He was spending thousands and thousands of dollars on them, money that came from MY family's business. And now he was planning to buy them a house. A house that would cost $400,000 of MY family's money. But the worst part of all wasn't the money, or even the lies. The worst part was that Marcus seemed genuinely happy with them. The way the woman talked about him, the way she giggled at his jokes, the way she trusted him with their future. He wasn't just cheating on me. He was building a whole new life that didn't include me at all. I got into my car and sat there for a long time, staring at the building where MY husband was about to have dinner with his other family. The grocery bags were still in my back seat, the ingredients for the special meal I had planned to cook for Marcus. The meal that was supposed to celebrate my promotion and bring us closer together. Now those bags just reminded me of how stupid I had been. I started the car and began the long drive back to Los Angeles, back to the empty house that suddenly felt like a prison. But as I drove through the dark streets, something strange started happening inside me. The terrible sadness I had been feeling was slowly being replaced by something else. Something cold and hard and angry. Marcus thought he was so clever, living two lives and fooling everyone. He thought he could use my family's money and trust to build his perfect little second family while keeping me as his comfortable backup plan. He thought I was just a naive little rich girl who would never figure out what he was really doing. But Marcus had made a big mistake. He had forgotten that I was a Salazar. And Salazar's drive back to Los Angeles was the longest 3 hours of my entire life. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight that my knuckles turned white, but I barely noticed. My mind was spinning like a tornado, trying to make sense of everything I had just discovered. Every few minutes, a new horrible realization would hit me like a slap in the face. Marcus calling in sick last month when he said he had the flu. He was probably spending time with Leo when the baby was actually sick. Those mysterious phone calls Marcus would take in the other room, saying it was boring work stuff. He was probably talking to her, planning their future together. The expensive cologne I found in his car that he said was a free sample from a store, she had probably bought it for him as a gift. All those little things that had seemed strange but not important enough to worry about. Now they all made perfect sense. By the time I reached our house in Beverly Hills, I felt like a completely different person than the happy woman who had left that morning to surprise her husband. I parked in our driveway and sat in my car for a long time, staring at our beautiful house. Just 12 hours ago, this place had represented everything good in my life. It was where Marcus and I had planned our future, where we had talked about raising children someday, where we had promised to love each other forever. Now it felt like a museum full of fake memories. I finally forced myself to get out of the car and walk to the front door. My legs felt shaky and weak, like I had just run a marathon. Inside, everything looked exactly the same as when I had left. The balloons from last night's celebration were still hanging from the ceiling. The leftover cake was still in the refrigerator. The champagne bottle was still sitting on the counter, half empty. But nothing would ever be the same again. I walked through the house like I was seeing it for the first time. In the living room, there were framed pictures of Marcus and me on our wedding day, both of us smiling like we had just won the lottery. In our bedroom, there were love letters he had written me during our first year of marriage, telling me I was the only woman he would ever need.
Lies.
All of it. Beautiful, convincing lies. I sat down on our bed and finally let myself cry for real. Not the quiet, shocked tears from earlier, but deep, painful sobs that came from the very center of my soul. How could I have been so stupid? How could I have missed all the signs? But even as I cried, my brain was working, putting together pieces of a puzzle I had never wanted to solve. Marcus had been planning this double life very carefully. The woman, I still didn't even know her name, seemed to believe that Marcus was going to leave me and marry her. She talked about him like he was completely hers, like I didn't even exist. Which meant Marcus had probably been telling her that his marriage to me was just for business. Maybe he told her that he was only staying married to me until he could figure out how to get control of the company. Maybe he said he was waiting for the right time to ask for a divorce. The thought made me feel sick all over again. But then I started thinking about something else. Something that made my sadness turn into burning anger. My parents. My dear, trusting parents who had welcomed Marcus into our family like he was the son they never had. My father, who had worked his entire life to build Salazar Construction Group from nothing into one of the biggest companies in the country. My mother, who had treated Marcus like her own child, cooking his favorite meals and buying him thoughtful gifts. They had given him everything. Not just money, but their love, their trust, and their dreams for the future. When my father handed over Emma's projects to Marcus, it wasn't just a business transaction. It was a father giving his life's work to the man he believed would take care of his daughter forever. This company represents everything I've worked for, Dad had told Marcus on our wedding day. I'm trusting you with my legacy because I know you'll protect it and help it grow. Marcus had looked my father straight in the eyes and promised he would never let him down. But now Marcus was planning to use money from that company, and my family's money, to buy a house for his secret girlfriend and their baby. He wasn't just cheating on me. He was stealing from my family. I thought about my parents' faces when they found out the truth. The disappointment, the heartbreak, the embarrassment of having to tell their friends and business partners that they had been fooled by a con man. My father was getting older now. His health wasn't as good as it used to be, and stress always made it worse. News like this could seriously hurt him. And my mother, she loved Marcus so much. She always bragged to her friends about what a wonderful son-in-law she had, how he was everything she could have hoped for in a husband for her only daughter. This betrayal would crush them both. But it would also destroy our family's reputation. Everyone in our social circle would be talking about it. The business community would lose trust in our family's judgment. Stock prices might even go down if investors thought we couldn't manage our own personal affairs. Marcus had put my entire family at risk for his selfish desires. As I sat there thinking about all of this, I felt something change inside me. The crushing sadness was still there, but it was being joined by something much stronger. Rage. Pure, cold rage. Marcus thought he was so smart. He thought he could play both sides forever, keeping me as his wealthy, respectable wife while building his real life with someone else. He probably laughed about it sometimes. Poor, naive Emma, so trusting and clueless. She'll never figure it out. But he had made one very big mistake. He had forgotten that I wasn't just some spoiled rich girl who would fall apart at the first sign of trouble. I was a Salazar. And Salazars had been building business empires for 3 generations by being tough, smart, and strategic. My grandfather had started with nothing and built a construction company that survived the Great Depression. My father had turned that small company into a billion-dollar empire. They hadn't done that by being soft or naive. And I wasn't going to let some cheating, lying thief destroy everything my family had built. I wiped away my tears and walked over to my laptop. If Marcus wanted to play games, I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. I spent the next 4 hours going through every financial document I could access. Bank statements, credit card bills, business expense reports, anything that might show me how long this betrayal had been going on and how much money Marcus had already stolen. What I found made me even angrier. Over the past 2 years, Marcus had been taking money out of the business in dozens of small amounts. A few thousand here for equipment repairs that never happened. A few thousand there for business dinners that were actually expensive dates with his girlfriend. He had been very clever about it, never taking enough at one time to raise suspicions. But when I added it all up, the total was shocking. Nearly $200,000 of my family's money had been spent on his secret life. The handbags, the jewelry, the expensive baby clothes and toys, the rent on the Santa Monica apartment, all of it paid for with money that belonged to my family. Marcus hadn't just been cheating on me. He had been systematically robbing us for 2 years. But as angry as I was, I forced myself to think clearly about what to do next. My first instinct was to confront him immediately. I wanted to call him right now and scream at him until my voice gave out. I wanted to drive back to Santa Monica and bang on that apartment door until the whole building could hear me telling everyone what a liar and a thief he was. But that would be the worst possible thing I could do. If I confronted Marcus now, while I was emotional and unprepared, he would have all the advantages. He had been planning and lying for 2 years. He probably had explanations ready for everything. He might even turn the situation around and make it seem like I was the crazy, jealous wife who was imagining things. And if I made a big scene, word would get out immediately. Within 24 hours, everyone would know about the scandal. My parents would be humiliated before I had a chance to prepare them. The business would be damaged before we could figure out how to protect it. Marcus might even disappear with whatever money he could grab, leaving us to clean up the mess while he started a new life somewhere else with his girlfriend and baby.
No. I needed to be smart about this.
I needed to think like a Salazar, strategically, patiently, and with a plan that would give me every possible advantage. Marcus thought he was the only one who knew how to keep secrets and manipulate situations. But he was about to learn that he wasn't the smartest person in this marriage. He was about to discover that the quiet, trusting wife he had been taking advantage of was much more dangerous than he had ever imagined. I closed my laptop and walked upstairs to our bedroom. In the morning, I would start putting together a plan that would not only expose Marcus for what he really was, but would also protect my family and make sure he paid for every dollar he had stolen and every lie he had told. But tonight, I needed to rest and prepare myself for the battle ahead. Because that's exactly what this was going to be, a battle. And I intended to win. As I got ready for bed, I caught sight of myself in the bathroom mirror. My eyes were still red from crying, but there was something new in them now. Determination. A cold, hard determination. Marcus had started this war when he decided to betray my love and steal from my family. Now, I was going to finish it. I woke up the next morning feeling like a completely different person. The crying was over. The shock had passed. What remained was something much more powerful, a clear, focused mind that knew exactly what needed to be done. Marcus had taught me a valuable lesson without even knowing it. He had shown me that nice people who trust others can be easily destroyed by people who are willing to lie and cheat. But he had also made a fatal mistake. He thought I would stay nice forever. I got dressed in my best business suit, the navy blue one that made me look older and more serious. Today was going to be the first day of my real education, and I needed to look the part. My first stop was my father's office at Salazar Construction Group. Dad was surprised to see me so early, especially since I was supposed to be celebrating my promotion. "Emma, sweetheart," he said, giving me a big hug. "You look tired. Are you feeling okay?" "I'm fine, Dad," I said, forcing a smile. "I just wanted to ask you about something business-related." For the next hour, I asked my father carefully planned questions about Emma's projects. How much money was in the accounts? Who had access to what funds? What kind of oversight was there on expenses? I was very careful not to make him suspicious. I framed my questions like I was just trying to understand the business better now that I had been promoted. "I want to be more involved in all our family companies," I explained. "Marcus works so hard, and I think I should help him more." Dad was delighted that I was taking more interest in business. He spent the morning teaching me about financial controls, audit procedures, and legal protections. "The most important thing," Dad said, "is to always have multiple people checking the books. Trust is good, but verification is better." I nodded and took notes, but inside I was thinking, too bad we didn't follow that rule with Marcus. My next stop was our family lawyer, Mr. Rodriguez. He had handled our legal affairs for 20 years, and I knew I could trust him completely. "I need to understand my legal rights," I told him privately. "If someone was stealing from a company I partially owned, what could I do about it?" Mr. Rodriguez raised his eyebrows. "That's a very specific question, Emma. Is there something you need to tell me?" "Not yet," I said carefully. "But I might need your help very soon. I want to be prepared." He spent 2 hours explaining fraud laws, asset protection, and criminal procedures. By the time I left his office, I had a much clearer picture of my options. The third stop was the hardest one. I needed to hire a private investigator. I found one through Mr. Rodriguez's recommendation, a former police detective named Sarah Chen who specialized in corporate fraud and infidelity cases. "I need you to investigate my husband," I told her, hating how the words sounded, but knowing they were necessary. Sarah was professional and understanding. "What do you suspect?" "Theft from our family business." And I took a deep breath. "I believe he has another family." Sarah didn't even blink. "How long do you need the investigation to take?" "I need everything," I said. "Financial records, phone records, travel patterns, the works. But I need you to be invisible. He can't know he's being watched." "Give me 2 weeks," Sarah said. "I'll get you enough evidence to bury him, if that's what you want." Over the next 2 weeks, I became an actress worthy of an Academy Award. Every day, Marcus came home from his work, and I greeted him with smiles and kisses. I asked about his day, cooked his favorite meals, and pretended to believe every lie that came out of his mouth. "How was the meeting in Santa Monica?" I would ask innocently. "Oh, you know how it is," Marcus would reply. "Boring contractor stuff." Nothing you'd be interested in. I would nod sympathetically while inside I was thinking, I know exactly how interesting your Santa Monica meetings are. The hardest part was when he would hold me at night, whispering sweet words in my ear about how much he loved me and how lucky he felt to be married to me. You're everything to me, Emma, he would say. I can't imagine my life without you. Each life felt like a small knife cutting into my heart, but I forced myself to smile and say I loved him too. Because I was gathering information. I started paying attention to patterns. Marcus got mysterious phone calls every Tuesday and Friday at exactly 6 p.m. He always took these calls in his study with the door closed, claiming they were boring conference calls with investors. But I knew better now. Tuesday and Friday were probably the days he called to check on Leo and his mother. I also noticed that Marcus had been working late every Wednesday for the past 3 months. But when I called the office on Wednesday evenings, his secretary always said he had left early. Wednesday must be his day to visit his other family. I started checking his credit card statements more carefully, something I had never bothered to do before because I trusted him completely. What I found made my blood boil. Charges at expensive baby stores. Payments to a fancy restaurant in Santa Monica every Wednesday night. A monthly payment to something called Ocean View Property Management, which I realized must be the rent on the apartment where his mistress lived. My apartment. The one my parents had bought for Marcus and me. But the most infuriating discovery came when I found a jewelry store receipt hidden in Marcus's wallet. A $15,000 diamond necklace. Purchased just last week. The same week he had told me we couldn't afford to go on vacation because business was slow. I sat in my car outside that jewelry store, staring at the receipt and feeling like I might explode from pure rage. But I didn't explode. Instead, I did something much more dangerous. I got smart. When Sarah Chin called me 2 weeks later, I met her at a quiet coffee shop far from anywhere Marcus might see us. You were right about everything, she said grimly, sliding a thick envelope across the table. Your husband has been living a double life for over 2 years. Inside the envelope were photographs that made my stomach hurt. Marcus holding baby Leo at the beach. Marcus kissing Maria on the Santa Monica pier. Marcus shopping for baby clothes with a big smile on his face, a smile I thought was only for me. The financial evidence is even worse, Sarah continued. I found records showing he's stolen approximately $300,000 from Emma's projects over the past 2 years. Small amounts at first, but getting bigger and bolder recently. $300,000. More than I had even imagined. There's something else, Sarah said quietly. He's been moving large amounts of money into private accounts over the past month. Accounts that only he controls. My heart began racing. What does that mean? In my experience, it means he's planning to run. Probably soon. The coffee shop suddenly felt too hot. Too small. Marcus wasn't just cheating and stealing. He was planning to disappear with my family's money. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Marcus, listening to him breathe peacefully while my mind raced with plans and possibilities. I could expose him right now. Call my parents, show them the evidence, have him arrested for theft. Watch his perfect life crumble into pieces. But then what? He would hire expensive lawyers. The scandal would destroy my family's reputation. The business would suffer. My parents' hearts would break in the most public way possible. And Maria and baby Leo, they were innocent in all this. She probably believed every lie Marcus told her, just like I had believed him.
No.
I needed a better plan. A smarter plan. Over the next week, I quietly put all the pieces in place. I met with Mr. Rodriguez and had him prepare divorce papers that would freeze all of Marcus's access to family money. I had Dad transfer control of Emma's projects back to the main Salazar company, with Marcus only as an employee instead of the owner. I opened my own bank accounts that Marcus knew nothing about. And then I did something that surprised even me. I called Maria. Hello, she answered, sounding cautious. My name is Emma Salazar, I said calmly. I believe we need to talk about Marcus. There was a long, terrible silence. I don't understand, Maria finally said, but her voice was shaking. I think you understand perfectly, I said, not unkindly. I'm Marcus's wife, and I know about you and Leo. I heard her start to cry on the other end of the phone. Please don't hurt my baby, she sobbed. Leo didn't do anything wrong. I know that, I said softly. And neither did you. Marcus lied to both of us. For the next hour, Maria and I talked. She told me everything, how Marcus had said he was divorced, how he promised to marry her, how he said he was building a business empire for their future together. She had believed him completely, just like I had. He said he was buying us a house, Maria whispered. He showed me pictures and everything. With money he stole from my family, I said quietly. Money that was supposed to be for our future. Maria was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "What are we going to do?" "We're going to make sure Marcus pays for what he's done to both of us," I said. "Are you willing to help me?" "Yes," Maria said immediately. "Tell me what you need." The plan came together beautifully over the next few days. On Saturday morning, I asked Marcus to come to my parents' house for a family celebration. "What are we celebrating?" he asked cheerfully as we drove there together. "Oh, just family things," I said with a smile. "You'll see." When we arrived, Marcus was surprised to see not just my parents, but also Mr. Rodriguez, the company accountant, and 2 police officers waiting in the living room. His face went completely white. "Emma, what's going on?" "Sit down, Marcus," I said calmly. "We need to have a conversation about your other family." For the next hour, we laid out all the evidence. The photographs, the financial records, the stolen money, everything. My father looked like he might have a heart attack. My mother couldn't stop crying. But I stayed calm and strong, explaining everything in a clear, steady voice. Marcus tried to lie at first, then he tried to blame me, then he finally just sat there in silence with his head in his hands. "You have 2 choices," Mr. Rodriguez told him. "You can voluntarily return all the stolen money and resign from the company, or we press criminal charges and you go to prison." Marcus chose the first option. Within a week, every penny was returned. Marcus signed papers giving up any claim to Emma's projects or any Salazar family assets. The divorce was filed and would be final in 6 months. I let Marcus keep the Santa Monica apartment. After all, Maria and Leo needed somewhere to live. But I made sure he understood that he would be paying for it himself now, without any help from my family's money. If this story shocked you, please like this video and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories. What would you have done in Emma's situation? Tell us in the comments below. 3 months later, I stood in my father's office, officially taking over as CEO of Emma's projects. "I'm proud of you," Dad said, hugging me tight. "You handled this whole situation with more strength and grace than I ever could have." "I learned from the best," I told him. My mother had worried that the scandal would ruin our family's reputation. But something unexpected happened instead. When other businesswomen heard my story, they started reaching out to me. They shared their own stories of betrayal and how they had overcome it. I became known not as the woman whose husband cheated on her, but as the woman who fought back and won. As for Marcus, I heard through mutual friends that he was working at a small construction company in Nevada, paying child support for Leo and barely making ends meet. Maria had moved back with her parents and was raising Leo with their help. She sent me a card once, thanking me for not destroying her life along with Marcus's. "You could have made everything so much worse for me and my son," she wrote. "But you chose kindness. Thank you." I keep that card on my desk as a reminder. A reminder that being strong doesn't mean being cruel. That protecting yourself doesn't require destroying others. That sometimes the best revenge is simply taking back control of your own life and refusing to let someone else's betrayal define you. I'm Emma Salazar, and I'm no longer anyone's victim.